Hi, I'm Latasha Washington. I'm JJ's mom.
Hi, I'm Linda Milton, and I'm JJ's grandmother.
I'm Justin, and I'm his dad.
Good afternoon. My name is Jaidon Faircloth Scott. Today, I'll be discussing with you the importance of supporting the United Nations in resolving international conflicts. Did you know that the United Nations spans across the globe with over 193 member nations? Throughout my extensive research, I've used a variety of academic and government sources, including the United Nations, the International Court of Justice, the Library of Congress, and the U.S. government. Specifically, I'll be discussing the United Nations' importance in the context of the history of international affairs, the organizations that are responsible for international policy, and the enforcement methods of the United Nations through which it enforces its policies. So let's start with the history of international affairs. In World War One, what was the key problem? The key problem there was the pact of secret alliances and the withholding of essential political information across European states. World War One was dangerous because not only because of the conflict itself, but why it occurred. Member states formed secret pacts which they did not share with other member nations. The key beginning nations were Austria-Hungary and Serbia. Serbia was aligned with Russia, and Austria-Hungary was aligned with France. This created a problem because neither France nor Russia knew of the pacts with either Serbia or Austria-Hungary. This resulted in a larger conflict between those states, which was later included Great Britain and Germany. This is important as the United Nations includes in its charter from its predecessor, the League of Nations, that any alliances formed between states must be made publicly so that states in conflict do not span into a further and larger war. In World War II, this is also essential in understanding the United Nations' importance in international conflicts. World War II began due to the failure of its predecessor, the League of Nations, in responding and combating aggression from Nazi Germany. They appeased Nazi Germany, in which allowed its expansion into Austria, Czechoslovakia, and its eventual invasion in Poland. By the time the Allies, the Great Britain and France, opposed Hitler, it was far too late and the Second World War already began. At its conclusion, the five major Allied states, which included the United States, China, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, became a part of the new United Nations Security Council and given veto powers for each state. This allowed for the balance of power between states and allowed each state to effectively counteract the other, furthering world peace. This is essentially important due to the conclusion of World War II beginning with the Cold War, a ideological, economic, and military war between the United States and the Soviet Union. The United Nations was essential in establishing policies, especially regarding the use of nuclear weapons, and establishing the accords through which international security is maintained today. So now let's go on to the organizations of the United Nations. These key organizations in resolving international conflicts are the General Assembly, the UN Security Council, and the International Court of Justice. The General Assembly, the primary decision-making body of the United Nations, is especially important as it provides a forum for political discussion and debate between member states of the United Nations. It allows for each of these states to form alliances and pacts between each state, and it allows for a unified international policy to be established in regards to international conflicts. The International Court of Justice is responsible for resolving legal disputes between states. This is important as it allows a third unbiased party to effectively establish an accord between conflicting states, which prevents any furtherance of conflict. The UN Security Council is especially important in resolving any disputes between states that can lead to the outbreak of war, as was seen in the first Gulf War. Now as to the primary enforcement methods of the United Nations, with the UN peacekeepers and the UN Charter. The UN peacekeepers, a force of personnel and soldiers contributed by member states, and funded by member states, with the United States contributing 22% of the UN's budget. These are especially important in resolving humanitarian efforts and conflicts in various regions of the world that are not stable as many Western countries. These states have many issues, including regional instability and government instability. This creates a conflict of which civil unrest can lead to the abuses of the people and many crimes against humanity, of which the UN peacekeepers are there to not only provide humanitarian efforts, but also to provide a meeting ground in which to effectively manage these dangerous situations. The UN Charter is essential for establishing the principle of international law. It binds each of the member states under a uniform standard policy through which each member state is applied the same. This allows for uniform policy, but it also allows states that are in contradiction with the UN Charter to effectively undergo a process through which they can become further aligned with the UN's principles and receive UN benefits from such. Before I conclude my speech, the United Nations' importance in international affairs cannot be underestimated today. With many conflicts across the globe, the United Nations is no more essential in managing these conflicts and providing a uniformed global policy toward these conflicts. Without the United Nations, these conflicts could spin out of control and result in further harm and war across the world. Thank you.